Hello and welcome to a brand new edition of Let's Talk Money. I'm your host, Surabhi Upadhyay. It's that time of the year. That time when the date tells us that the spotlight needs to be on women. And therefore, we in the media obviously do that. But you know, if you've been following this show, that a conversation on women, their well-being, their finances, their financial security is an ongoing conversation on Let's Talk Money. And hopefully, it's an ongoing conversation for you with your families as well. Well, as we get set to celebrate International Women's Day, yes, we will celebrate the date here on the show as well. And to help me do that today on the show, I have three women who are stalwarts in their respective fields. They're strong women. They definitely manage a lot of money, help clients deal with a lot of money, and they're here to help us move up the value chain. That's what I call this show. We are all well aware that as women, we need to be responsible for our financial destiny. But how do we do it? Sometimes it's easier said than done. The done is what we'll focus on the show this week. So let me welcome in our guests on the show. Arunima, Head of Wealth and Family Office at Axis AMC, joins in. We have Devina Mehra, founder and chairperson and MD of First Global. Of course, we've had these conversations with Devina several times in the past as well. And Neha Pathak, Head of Trust and Estate Planning at Motilal Oswal. And you'll of course recognize Neha on the show as well, talking about all those important legal matters when it comes to money. Thank you so much, all three of you, for joining us on the show. And let's start by wishing each other a very happy Women's Day.
Yes, happy Women's Day to you too.
And happy Holi also.
Yes. Happy Holi as well.
Holi.
Yes, absolutely, because the country's been celebrating through two different dates. Ladies, first of all, I'm so glad that you could take out time from your busy schedules to be here for this conversation, because sometimes in person just works best. Yes. And before we talk about asset allocation and investments and savings, I want to start with absolute raw bare basics, right? So the stats are telling us that Indian women are more independent, a lot of women are working, a lot of women are investing, women are juggling these multiple roles. But I want to know from your experience in your professional spheres and personal spheres, whether that visible change indeed is happening, where a woman is allowed to be fully independent and fully financially secure. Neha?
So I would not say that it's fully there, but it's partially getting there. So there are people who are welcoming this with open arms. They are saying that let the women or the lady of the house have the investments in her name. Let the lady do the investments, be a part of the meetings when the wealth manager is meeting, plan for the family, how the investments should be done, how things should work out for the family. So yes, family inclusion is happening, but then at the same time, there are a lot of women who are not being included, or they don't want to include themselves. That's also one of the points.
So either it could be from the woman's end, that I don't want to bother with this, it's too technical, or it could be from the family side, saying that, look, you stay out of it. This is our turf. Devina, what are you seeing around?
Yeah, I mean, it is changing, but very slowly. And also we talk about investments in women's name. And you even use the word allow. See, have you ever heard of...
I used it very deliberately.
Yes, I know.
I use it with intent.
Yes, but that's what the point is. Do we ever say that are men allowed to manage their own money? So, that is the whole point, that the cultural conditioning is so strong right from the beginning. The money conversations happen with sons, not with daughters. The first time women think about money is probably when they're working and in their 20s. So and therefore, they also are more hesitant themselves. So even I find that even when the so-called investment is in the woman's name, oftentimes the discussion is by the men, and they might even tell you that, yes, we want to invest and yes, we want to redeem whatever. But the message might come from the woman's email, but you know that they are not taking the final decisions. And this is a cause for me. So, that because there's no independence till you manage your own money. I mean, it is as simple as that. Agree. So don't leave it to the men in the house. It's not that hard. Please take charge of your own money.
I completely agree with you. Arunima, what are your experiences, professional and personal?
Sure.
What do they tell you?
No, so I see some change, right? And as we were talking earlier, and I was pointing out that I don't see that change just today. I've been seeing that the women who are bold and the women who are more confident have been managing wealth for quite some time. I've seen my mother do it. I've seen my grandmother do it. So I think the onus is on us as well, that we have to be more confident. A lot of us would have seen that movie English Winglish. I'm sure a lot of you women in the audience have seen it. And Sridevi helped herself, right? She went and learned the language that she wanted to speak. So I think the onus is on women as well to learn about finances, to ask the family that I want to be involved, and to manage it well for themselves.
You know, before we get to the to-do section of this conversation, I just want to get your sense, Devina and Arunima, particularly you, both of you. Now with digital and so much of the financial industry moving to DIY and everything happening on the phone, has it made it simpler for women or has it made it more complicated for women? Because there's just so much choices, news, noise, investing, products. What do you think?
I think the access is more, which is good. So if you want to learn, if you have not had the opportunity to learn about finances, you can learn. But I would also put a caution there that don't be on either end of the risk spectrum. And too often I find women are either in fixed deposits and PF only, or they think they can become day traders, that now the children are gone, let me spend my time trading options or day trading. So don't do that either. Be in the middle and do a sensible asset allocation. As I say, money management is neither as simple nor as complex as you think it is. You get the broad asset allocation right, you're 90% of the way through. You don't need to know the magic formula for multi-baggers and news. Your husband doesn't know it either. You know, just because he talks in parties about it doesn't mean that they know it, because confidence does not equal competence. Always remember that the men in your life, and this is data also, that actually when women invest, their results are better, but men are more confident.
Sound better. maybe. But absolutely. So, Neha, okay, let's start with the bare basics. And I think it's probably simple to divide us women folk into two categories, right? There are women who are earning their own money. And let's draw up some sort of a framework for them in terms of, and that money might be shared as well. That's where it gets complicated. Shared with, parents who are dependents, shared with the family, with the spouse, and obviously being spent on children. So there's that, bucket of women. And then there are women who are anyway dependent on either their inheritance, spouse's money, or parents, and they're living in parents' houses or owning parents' assets. So first of all, is the approach different for each? I'm guessing yes, because it's that conversation of my money versus your money versus dad's money versus husband's money. And that's where the complications begin.
So actually, it's not so complicated if you just put up some initial framework for yourself. So if you have a framework for yourself that it is money, it's not ours, theirs, mine. Let's put a framework. Do I know where the money is being invested? Simple things like insurance. Now, if you are working, you have health insurance from the company. There are women who are not working. Do they have health insurance? Do they have their own personal insurance? Are they relying on their parents or their spouse's health insurance? Now, these are small, basic things, but one needs to know about it. Other things, I am inheriting from my father. Do I know what my father's assets are? So that's a simple, basic thing. Again, I need to understand that what is that my father owns, or my husband, what does he own? Do I own any part of it? Do I, if I do own that, is it a house? Is it an investment? Am I a nominee? Am I a joint holder? Now, in that case, we need to figure that woman has to understand that this is a basic step. These are basics that one needs to get clear.
Yeah, at least be aware.
Be aware.
Ask the questions about where is the money, whose money or whose asset it is, and whether you have any part in it or not in terms of either a nominee or a joint holder. And the two are very different. And if you go back to earlier episodes, the one that we've done with Neha, nominations are not equal to ownership of that asset. So be awareness about things like that.
Correct.
So Arunima, let's ask you that question. The approach towards financial self-reliance and financial independence for women who are earning their own money and women who happen to be dependent.
Sure. So I'll
How are the two
start
different?
with women who are dependent.
Yeah.
I would say not earning is not equal to not owning, right? So we need to get that very clear. If you're not stepping out of the house and earning money, does not mean if an asset is being bought, you're not a joint holder. So you have to own each asset, whether it's a house where you live or the mutual fund investments that your husband is doing. You have to be aware and you have to have those conversations from day one. What is the life cover that your husband has? I've seen in many cases that husbands are not covered. And, you know, and then it's sudden, you know, if something happens to the husband, you know, there's a big issue in terms of kids' education, retirement, etc. Like health insurance, you know, if you're dependent on your husband's policy and tomorrow your husband is out of job, then you don't have a health cover because, you know, that policy is from the company where he was working. So these conversations need to happen. There needs to be an asset register, both for your physical assets as well as for your digital assets, right? There are many a times that women do not know how many accounts the husband has. He might have so many broking accounts. Is she a nominee there? What are the passwords in case, you know, there is some issue? So a digital register for assets and a physical asset register is needed. And of course, will is something that is needed. So this is what I would say for women who are dependent, owning assets. Also, do your personal SIP. Today, like you earlier asked, you know, you have digital ways of investing. You have simple products like mutual funds. You don't have to do complicated investments. And women are used to saving. Whatever money they have, out of that also they are used to saving some money, right? And that usually is lying somewhere in the house or, you know, it's in an FD. So I would also recommend that they have a SIP where the folio is not owned jointly. The folio should be only in their name and all their personal rainy day saving for 6 to 9 months at least of expenses should be in that folio. And then they can have some goal-based folios as well for the family.
Okay. Devina, I'm going to ask the hardest question to you because this is the hard part, right? Making sure that even if you are, you know, a part of a family, you know, whether as a daughter, whether as a wife, a mother, obviously, there are some obligations and contributions, but how do you still ensure that you yourself are secure? Because anything can happen tomorrow.
Yes. So first of all, I would say one of the decisions that women take without thinking about it and which has the greatest consequence for their future health and their financial health is either giving up their career or going into the slow lane in their career because of family obligations. I mean, currently the situation is, I read about somebody who was divorcing because his mother was unwell and he wanted his wife to quit her job and she refused to. I mean, now just think about if the wife's parent is unwell and she asks the husband to quit the job. I mean, how absurd that sounds. So every time, you know, you reverse the gender and it sounds absurd, you know where that's coming from. So this is one thing I must tell people, that if at all you are making that change, then at the very least make sure 50% of your husband's salary is coming to your account. Only then you are I mean, it's not funny. I mean, women end up later in life and find there's nothing in their names, you know. So that's the whole point, that this is, and this I actually heard of Aparna Sen's daughter doing 40 years ago, that if you want me to change cities, 50% of your income comes to me. So, you know, so that's, you have to put your foot down in the beginning, because as I said, too many women drift into this decision without thinking it through. Also, many working women later in life find that, oh, the way the household was being run, I was doing all the daily expenses or monthly expenses, and the assets were all being built out of husband's income and mainly in his name. So, you know, these are hard, uncomfortable conversations to have, but you have to make sure that the assets are in your name jointly and not as nominee. A nominee can be changed anytime. A financial planner told me that my male clients come to me, you know, at various stages, but the women almost always come to me when they are widowed or separating. Because they have not thought of their financial health prior to that. So.
Very well said. And I think that is the change that we are trying to sort of champion through media, through shows like the one that you're watching right now, that do not wake up and think about money when it's too late, when disaster is already struck. Think today, think as of yesterday. The Women's Day special edition of Let's Talk Money. And here, more than talking about the money itself, or gold versus silver versus equity, the conversation is about awareness. The conversation is about how you need to really take charge of your own security and your financial destiny, because no one else is going to do it for you. We are, of course, in conversation with Devina Mehra, with Arunima, Nain, and, of course, Neha Pathak from Motilal Oswal. So, ladies, I think we've established that those hard conversations need to be had. There is no beginning without that. Now, let's take it to the next step. and, you know, talk about both the buckets. So let's start with women who are earning. What should the checklist be for them, Arunima? And in terms of basic investments and also that division, which I asked Devina as well, that, right, there's a pool of capital going towards joint finances, etc. But what should be that proportion that you want to save in your name? Just some, you know, framework will help.
So women who are working, of course, will contribute towards the household expenses as well. The ideal way to do is open a joint bank account along with your husband. You both decide, you know, how much each will contribute towards the household expenses. Apart from that, whatever you save has to be managed and invested by you. Right? And there I see a lot of women not wanting to do that, not wanting to take that work on themselves. Like Devina was saying that, you know, they feel that their husband knows more than them about finances. The husband is talking about stocks all day. Does not mean that he knows more than you. And there are simple ways of investing now. You do not have to be a stock trader, or you do not have to know technical charts to invest. There are simple products like mutual fund, and we are seeing women participation in mutual fund increasing. 1 out of every 4 folio now belongs to a woman. So we've already seen that going up. And I will encourage women to use mutual funds. And there are all kinds of mutual funds. Of course, you know, you don't have to take more risk. If you love investing in gold, you can invest in a gold fund. If you love investing into, you know, safe instruments, then there are debt funds. So there are all kinds of funds. Options. You don't have to, you know, investing sometimes women feel is associated with risk. And I have seen personally women being more risk averse. So I think they need to understand and educate themselves more in terms of investment risk, and start managing their savings themselves. Right?
Devina, so that's on the investment side, and mutual funds offer a great route now, very simple route to start securing yourself. I want to ask you about assets as well, and creating assets. Now, in the event that you realize that a lot of assets are already in the husband's name or the father's name, and there's a brother, and there are too many complications, and you want to have your own assets as well, first of all, would you recommend that? Would you, I mean, will you tell that to your clients, whether it's a property, whether it is any other kind of physical asset? How should a woman think about it? Or is it just best to keep parking some money in those SIPs? Retirement security, those longer term goals that we think about.
So, I mean, when you're talking physical assets, I'm not a great one for advocating real estate assets, because that is a very illiquid investment. So one house which you live in has another consideration, but real estate as investment has a major problem that if you want the money, even within 6 months, it will qualify as a distress sale. And actually, RBI data shows that the compounding in real estate has been way below what it has been for equity, in spite of that higher illiquidity risk. The thing is that what women often do is that they're good at saving, but they are not investing with intention. And I will tell you what happens, that if you put 1 lakh a year in, let us say, a bank account for 30 years, at the end you will have 75 lakhs. If you put that same 1 lakh in a multi-asset portfolio built through, let us say, mutual funds, which compounds 9.5%, you'll have 1.6, 1.7 crores. If you invest in something that compounds 12% plus, more equity oriented, you'll have 3 crores. So 75 lakhs and 3 crores is the difference.
Huge difference.
It's a huge difference. So you cannot run away from risk assets absolutely and say, I'll be 100% safe, because then you don't get the compounding. So you have to take some risk, and the caveat to that is that if you take risk, yes, I mean, it's not an if, you will at some point, if you are in, for instance, equity-oriented assets, you will have a loss. And whether you're investing directly or through mutual fund, PMS, whatever, you will have a loss. And oftentimes, the woman's self-talk and the talk in the family is, you didn't know this, why did you get into it? So, you know, and whereas when the man loses money, the woman doesn't want to disturb the peace in the house. And many men, when I have men in the audience, they tell me, how will she even know that I've lost money? I'm not going to tell her. So, you know, that's
where we come to point number 1. Ask all the questions. Make sure everything about the house finances.
Yes. So, you know, don't be at either end of the risk spectrum, but it is much simpler than what you think it is. And be ready to take some losses in the middle. And whatever you need as an emergency fund, obviously, should never be in an equity-oriented asset. Equity-oriented assets should be money you don't require for at least 8 to 10 years, because there is no buddy who can tell you what an index will do in 6 months or even 2 years.
Neha, let's talk, some of the legal points which are important to at least know from the top of our heads, like the one on nominations. And I think it was a revelation for a lot of people who watched the show as well, that if you're a nominee, it doesn't mean that you get the asset.
Correct.
I mean, you don't own the asset. Anyone else can be made a nominee as well. So from a legal standpoint, what are the 2 or 3 things that every woman must be aware of, whether it is inheritance, whether it is, an unforeseen situation like a divorce? Just what are the 2, be aware of these things kind of a list?
See, there are quite a few, but I'll list down few of them. One is, like we talked about it earlier, health insurance is one of the things. But you should be aware of what are the assets that are held by the family. Very, very important to understand, because in case of any eventuality, be it death, divorce, separation, anything, at least you're aware where are you supposed to get these assets from and from whom. So that, and the location of these assets. Where is it located? If you have a bank account with which bank, if there is a locker, are you a joint holder or a nominee, or you're the owner? You should be aware of things like this. Second thing is, as Devina and Arunima said, that you need to have that certain amount in your name. Make sure that at least 6 months of that is something that is there in your name. So it's simple, like how you talk in the flight. They tell you in the flight that secure yourself before securing others. So you need to have your security in place. Third is, if there are any wills, trusts, nominations, you should be aware, and if the nominations are there, updated, be in any asset class, real estate, investments, anything. Have that updation of nomination in place. You should be aware, if you are signing documents, you should be aware that how are you exposed? Where is the risk that you have taken? Has your husband or father taken a loan? So how badly are you exposed? How badly is your credit score going down, or is it going to be maintained? If the loan is not paid, how badly are you getting into any kind of trouble? Plus, you should be aware of the fact that there are other members in the family. How are they taken care of? Are they well supported? With your husband's money, with your money, how are they supported? And how are you planning your retirement? Very important. Old age is the most important part. You need to plan for your retirement well. So those golden years should not be about asking for funds.
Or asking about where's the will, where's the bank account, where's the password.
Correct.
The where should be well taken off, care of. Great conversation, ladies. So quick 10 seconds to each one of you. Your 10-word or whatever 15-word advice to all the women out there. Arunima, what would it be?
So I started with that. I will request all women to be more bold and confident, help themselves, learn about investments, strictly have an asset register in the house, which takes care of both financial and digital assets and physical assets.
Devina?
Take charge of your finances and don't be at extreme ends of the risk spectrum.
All right. And Neha?
Look out for your security first before going and helping your husband out.
Strong statements by strong women, and there's no other way to be. We have to be strong women for ourselves first, and then, of course, for our families. Fantastic conversation. Thank you so much for taking out the time and spelling this out as clearly as one possibly can. I think it's going to be a very helpful sort of advice, and it'll go a long way for all our viewers, all the women who are watching, and even the husbands and the fathers, everybody who's watching this show.
Everyone who has women in their lives.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.